ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to take a look at horizontal and vertical lines. So your goal is to write equations from different given information for horizontal and vertical lines. So let's take a look at what this is going to look like. It says draw a horizontal line on the graph. And if I was there in class today, I'd let you guys kind of go through that on your own. But what I want to do is have us all draw the same horizontal line. So horizontal goes across from left to right, and so I'm just going to draw one here. And so hopefully you guys can all see from your seats where I'm at, but I hit the y-axis at 3. It says to name 3 ordered pairs on the line, and so you can go ahead of me and start naming those yourself. Or we can take a look and just follow along here. I'm going to name this point, and this point. So the first point I drew is the point -2, 3. Remember, we name where it hits the x-axis first and where it hits the y-axis. For my second point, it's the point 1, 3. And for the third point, it's the point 4, 3. I'm hoping you guys are noticing some type of pattern here. But what I'm hoping you'll notice is that all the y coordinates are 3. Notice I asked you the question, which axis does it go through? And this line goes through the y-axis at 3. All right? We need to draw a vertical line. So we're going to draw a vertical line once again. Just follow along with me. Maybe use a straight edge. And then we're going to name 3 ordered pairs on the line. So I'm just going to quickly grab a couple points. This is the point -4, 3. Because it hits the x-axis at 4 and the y-axis at 3. This is the point -4, 1. And this is the point -4, -2. And so once again, I'm hoping you guys notice something here. This time, all of our x-coordinates are -4. So on our horizontal line, all the y's were the same. On our vertical line, all the x's were the same. And so we're going to answer the same question. What axis did it go through? Well, this time we went through the x-axis at -4. Ladies and gentlemen, those are not coincidences. That what our y coordinates are is where we go through the y-axis at. And on a vertical line, what our x-coordinates are is where we hit the x-axis at. So how is this going to help us write equations? Well, here's some things we're going to know about all horizontal lines. All right, so for any horizontal line, all of the y-coordinates, I guess I don't need to write y-coordinates, all the y-coordinates are the same. For a vertical line, all of the x-coordinates are the same. And so when you look at given information, if you're given ordered pairs where all of the y-coordinates are the same, we know it's going to be a horizontal line. If you're given information where all the x-coordinates are the same, you're going to be given a vertical line. We also know that horizontal lines, that's kind of a reminder from your warm-up, from what we've done this year, that for horizontal line, the slope is 0. So if I'm given 0 slope, I know it's a horizontal line. And for vertical lines, it is undefined slope, or you can say no slope. All right, so how does all of this piece together to write us equations? Well, because on our first examples, all of the y-coordinates have to be 3, and it has to cross the y-axis at 3, this equation would actually be y = 3. And we've seen that. We've done some table work with that, ladies and gentlemen. When the equation was y = 3, we saw in our table all the coordinates were 3, and that we graphed a horizontal line. Here, when all of our x-coordinates have to be -4, and we have to cross the x-axis at -4, it helps us write an equation of x equals -4. So let's go through, let's take a look at some examples here on what these problems are going to look like for writing equations. All right, so we have two lines we're going to write our equations for. Our first one is this horizontal line. So I look at this, I follow this line. We're lucky enough that this line does actually cross the y-axis. And so because it crosses the y-axis, I know it has to be y equals. I look to see where it crosses at 1, 2, 3. Exactly what we started with. For the second example here, for my vertical one, I look and it does cross the x-axis. If it didn't, I would just keep extending my line. Remember, our lines are infinite in their length. I would just keep extending it until I hit the x-axis. And here we hit the x-axis at 1, 2, 3, positive 4. So from a graph, it's really pretty easy. I just look at the line, see which axis it's crossing, and then tell us where it has to cross that axis at. Now what they're going to do is give us some information. They're going to give us slope and a point, which we've had before. But now I know if I have m is equal to 0, if I have 0 slope, I need that horizontal line. I need to cross the y-axis. So I know my equation is going to be y equals, and I'm going to take whatever that y coordinate is. So my equation there is y equals 5. So we've got to, kind of piece those visually together. So some of you need to draw a picture of that. If you need to draw a picture of -4, 5, plot that point, and then draw 0 slope through that, then do that so that you can see it crosses, oops, I graphed my point wrong. If you need to plot the point, -4, 5, and then draw your line through the axis and see that you hit at y equals 5, then still keep it today as a visual experience for you. For number 2, it's undefined slope, which means it's vertical, and that it crosses the x-axis. Ladies and gentlemen, these little notes I'm writing down are things that you should be writing down. Even though it's going to be the thoughts I want you to have, the first time doing this, you need to have something to take your thoughts back to. So get these little notes I'm writing down. Because it crosses the x-axis, it has to be x equals, and we have x equals -7. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to be given 2 points, and there's going to be 2 ways of doing this. So I'm going to show you the first way. The first way I would go through and find my slope. So I would do 6 minus 5 over 4 minus 4, and that's going to give me 1 over 0, which when we look at this is what we know as undefined. And so then I'm right back to where I just came from. Undefined slope is vertical, crosses the x-axis. And so we should be able to get our equation from there. But the other way to do this problem is to simply look at the information that's been given to you. If I look, both of my x-coordinates are 4. So if we go back and look at what we had in our very beginning examples, when our x-coordinates were the same, that meant we were going through the x-axis. Here, my x-coordinates are the same, and so that means I'm going to go through the x-axis at 4. If we look at number 2, the same thing happens. My x-coordinates are both -3, so I'm going to have an equation of x equals -3. If you look, ladies and gentlemen, the next part is practice. So these are problems that I want you guys to try on your own. So I'm going to give the sub a little bit of time to come over and pause the video for you guys. Practice these on your own. You have to write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equations. So write those 6 equations, and then when people are done, we can unpause the video. So I'll be quiet now so that we can pause. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I was quiet there for a while. Hopefully everything got paused. When we look at number 1, we're going through the x-axis, and we cross the x-axis at 1, 2, -3. So there's our first equation. For number 2, even though we don't cross the y-axis, like we said, we can keep extending that line so we actually cross the y-axis. And we're going to cross the y-axis at 1, 2, -3. For number 3, I have 0 slope, so that means it's horizontal, and it crosses the y-axis. Remember, you're not naming the horizontal axis, you're naming which axis you cross. And so I need to look at this y-coordinate. So it should be y equals 2. Undefined slope, that's your vertical. And so you cross the x-axis. And so we're going to use our x-coordinate of x equals 9. For number 5, remember, we're going to stop and look. And the first thing I notice is that my x-coordinates are the same. And so my equation has to be x equals -5. And for number 6, once again, stop and pause. Look at what we see. My y-coordinates are 8. And so I have to have y is equal to 8. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a great day. You have a worksheet for tonight, and I will see you on the next class period.